Hey, welcome, and thank you so very much for joining me on another episode of Talking Cloud. Now, this is where we talk about anything and everything that has anything to do with cloud computing. And come on, man, what doesn't have to do with cloud computing today in the world of computing? Everything touches the cloud. And as I've told you so many times, I'm just the Gilligan in this equation. And today, man, I got a super guest and a real professor, because this guy's got long in the tooth on the technical side. And he is the co-founder at RAD Security. You can look up Jimmy Mesta, find him on LinkedIn. Long-time security guy doing a lot of really cool stuff, investor, all kinds of other things, has one of the first degrees at the university he went to that was out of the information systems school, I believe. You can set me straight on that, Jimmy. So, hey, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Jimmy to the program. Thanks so much, man, for joining me.
Absolutely, Grant. I'm excited to be here and stoked to dive in and discuss all things cloud and otherwise.
Yeah, cool. So first, I didn't really give you justice because you've done a lot of stuff, and it looks like, as I peruse through your background, engineering background for the most part, kind of technical chop side. Why don't you push it from the dock and just at least give a little perspective on yourself?
Yeah, I definitely on the engineering side. As you mentioned, I do have one of the first cybersecurity degrees from Penn State, and it was interesting.
That's pretty cool.
It was kind of a happenstance. I mean, I was 19 when I made that decision. I thought hacking sounded cool. I didn't realize it was going to be what it is today.
Right.
But I went in kind of just wanting to learn more about this kind of nascent field of cybersecurity, and transferred out of more of a traditional computer science into more of a hybrid role that was actually sponsored by the NSA. And I feel like we were guinea pigs, but it was a lot of fun too. And that just kickstarted my career as I interned at a company called Agilent Technologies, which was a spinoff of HP and now Keysight Technologies. And I picked up in kind of a disheveled web application firewall project that no one really wanted to own. And I was the intern willing to do anything, and started getting into the data center and figuring out how to configure a WAF and what a WAF was. And AppSec really, it just stuck with me, and then led to infrastructure and offensive security and kind of this winding road of a cybersecurity career that ultimately led to starting RAD Security, and just building stuff along the way. So it's been a really rewarding journey so far.
That sounds very cool. Tell me, I'm curious. You said sponsored by the NSA. So what was the gravitational influence, if you will, with that entity being involved in the curricula, if they were? I mean, how did they participate?
Yeah, so at Penn State, there's a degree that even when I was there, it was still pretty early on, called IST, which is Information Systems and Technology, no, Information Sciences and Technology. So it was really meant to be like this bridge between, computer science and like business and the sort of emerging sort of IT analyst field. And then I don't know all the details, but being in Pennsylvania, not too far from, DC, and
Right.
there's a lot of like management consultants, Deloitte's of the world, recruiting from Penn State, and I think the NSA wanted to start investing in colleges where they could hire people that had some cybersecurity sort of
Yeah.
background.
Yeah.
So they picked some curriculum, some classes that were some new ones, some other existing ones, and it was kind of a hodgepodge in the beginning. But yeah, it was the degree was yeah, I guess cyber security from the College of IST, but the NSA would then recruit, obviously, amongst
Hmm.
other government agencies from Penn State. And I didn't go that route, almost did, but I went the more private sector route for a
Yeah.
variety of reasons. But yeah, it was cool to be part of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you, if you get a chance, um, earlier episode that I had with Oded Venunu, who is our head of research, and he talks about, you know, that it's actually nation states as they moved from the kinetic world to the cyber world. They still need ammunition, and so they're producing this ammunition that subsequently ends up getting out into the wild, and then you have the both black and white hats creating bounty programs, right? So they found a way to monetize that which has gotten out in the wild, both on both sides of the fence. It's really a fascinating ecosystem that's evolved from those very early flat networks of old that really just had a magazine that's no longer in paper. It's up on a page. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
How far
Yeah.
we've come from that initial uh, step into this whole internet, which subsequently is what's enabled the cloud anyway, right? I mean, that at the end of the day, they're both, it's very symbiotic. One wouldn't occur without the other, I don't think, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, cloud has, I started in a very data center centric world, as most did at that time. And I feel fortunate, I guess, or unfortunate, depending on how you frame it, to have to be, front and center leading security teams in the like transformation to cloud. So
Yeah.
I think I love AppSec, and I think AppSec is still, I'm deeply rooted in a lot of that, but all the roads led to infrastructure and cloud. Like I think
Mm-hmm.
application security and cloud security converge in a lot of ways that I
Mm-hmm.
found to be really interesting. Application packaging mechanisms, all of that, 10, 12 years ago was so, it was so transformational to the security program that I was trying to build.
Sure. And are you
Containers,
talking about,
just different.
are you talking about how we went from this world of an installer app that you'd have to literally, and there were all kinds of different, those were that was the underside of the industry, that unless you were a developer building software that needed to be distributed, you didn't know about it. But there were many different packages and options you could choose that would enable you to go through that installer, right? Remember those very, and
Yeah.
now can you type in www dot, there's the installer. And
Yep.
it's when you really, it's remarkable how an application back when you got started, when we were, in those early days, the process you had to go through in order to actually get that flower to blossom for you to experience it and smell it and see if you liked it,
Yeah, it was, we were really like, is gatekeepers by design. Like there were teams that did these big hairy release cycles, and you're up all night and it takes a week. And This is for regular like website sort of stuff, nothing like crazy.
Yeah.
And pre-provisioning and ordering servers, setting up,
Mm.
different, like I remember helping to do the deployment of uh, the Google Corp or Enterprise Search
Yep.
box that you
Sure.
purchase, the
Yeah.
yellow one with the bubbles all over it, and it's
Yeah.
like a
Yeah. Yeah.
crazy,
And it was
crazy
this
thing.
whole crazy new concept of, what do you mean a Google appliance? You
Yeah, it
know,
was,
you
and it
know,
looks so different than every other server we had.
sure.
Yeah, it was hilarious.
But it was
But
brilliant on really, putting data first and that initial knowledge base concept, right? Of putting it all in one place and then having that search algorithm be able to crawl it and find it. It was brilliant, really.
yep, yep. And then I spent a lot of time. I I did a long stint of pen testing, like offensive security. It was always, I don't know if it's by design, but you know, I don't think you can defend unless you know what the offense is doing really well. So you can read about it, but until you sit down and have to be immersed in it. So I spent a few years doing like web app pen testing. I would do physical on-site pen testing, like all of it, and really enjoyed that. So I wanted to
You
get
can
both
read
sides too.
about you can read about standing 10 feet ahead of the base on the third base line, thinking the guy's gonna bunt, and he hits a line shot right at you. You can read about that experience,
Sure. Yeah.
but there ain't nothing like it until you're out and you actually are in it, right?
Like, I mean, it's the same with starting a company. It's the same thing where I think I read every business book before doing it, and then you kind of throw it all away the day you actually start. It's like, then you have
It's
to
true.
reread them. So yeah, unless you do it,
It's true.
it's all just theory. So
Yeah,
I'm
Mark
a big
Twain
fan
said
of
it
that.
best, brother. The best way to get ahead is to get started.
I agree.
It's so true. So let's talk about. I know you've been in the cloud and you were in Kubernetes and in the early days. I think I imagine, remember, or maybe you don't, Dome 9. Dome
Hmm.
9 was one of the I mean, they were security and compliance, visibility into the cloud before it was called posture management. When Gartner coined their term, it was long after they got their first start. But it's interesting how much that segment has changed. My analogy is it's a wave, and CNAP, if you will, and that whole space is really out in the white water of the wave, man. Changing fast, moving fast, very tumultuous, very turgid. And I find it fascinating, that Checkpoint, right? Our CEO, he said, hey, here's our business. We're going to back out of that. We're going to focus on, the front door, the back door. And we have a very cool WAF. Our WAF is very, very innovative. And that was where the focus is going to be. And we literally handed the CNAP business from our entire customer base, whether we had it or not, because we're not going to continue after it, to
Yep.
Wiz. So I'm curious to hear kind of your short term, maybe longer, looking out on the horizon on this whole cloud space, because um, when I look at, candidly, Jimmy, when I look at the Gartner provided CNAP diagram, I think it's out of focus because there's so many circles that are overlapping. It's like, wait, is that really right? With identity and all the other things that they have in it. And so I'm just curious how, I mean, by their own admission, the definitions is a collection of tools. So it's clear as mud.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious how you see that evolving, what you kind of see that landscape look like.
Yeah. I mean, you nailed it. Tumultuous is the right phrasing for CNAP. I mean, at least our journey here, and we're approaching 4 years old ish. So
Hmm.
we've been doing this for a while. I lived through, I would call like, lived like deeply intimate with the phase, we'll call it phase zero of CNAP, and the runtime tools, and in the the Dome 9 era and the twist lock era, and
Yep.
um the that was the earliest of trying to get visibility beyond just your AWS account style. This is
Right.
like
Your console. Right.
more
Beyond
yeah,
seeing what you have.
seeing
It's
what's
like,
running at the workload level.
yeah.
And
But it was
in
hell if
pair
you were using more than one, or if you needed
yeah,
to bounce around. I mean, that's where those
that
tools
was hard
really
to
started to
do.
become powerful. Is that unification of the view? It was just a big step, right? Hey, these S3 buckets are unencrypted. I mean, just that whole. Um, Arguably, it's like the whole IPS IDS, right? I mean, nobody cares about IPS. They care about ideas, right? Um,
Yeah. And
but you
I
got to start
mean,
somewhere. You
you
got to
do,
start
and like
somewhere.
I think these acronyms are they make things really challenging starting a company, because on one side, our job and my job at RAD Security is to differentiate and bring a unique offering to the market that others don't, right? By definition, a startup needs to exist that's different, right? And you have to meet some customer where they're at with some pain enough that they pay you money, right? Like if you just
Totally.
textbook style, but like the marrying yourself too intimately with a Gartner acronym is also by definition setting you up to not be very differentiated. So
It's so
it's
hard,
this,
isn't it? I mean, it's
yeah,
so hard. I couldn't agree with you more, Jimmy. I'm telling you, the Gartner tax, you know, I mean, it's kind of like I feel like it's the old days in England and the kingdom, and he collects his tax, and he defines, you know, the rules, and you have to really do some cool shit, some amazing, different, cool shit that adds a significant value for the customer to be able to establish a new category.
yeah, and
It
a
can
brand new
happen.
category. It can happen.
Like
Takes
I mean,
usually,
Cyberint is a company Checkpoint recently bought, and the big push is ERM, external risk
yeah,
management, right? And I mean, but it's tough because Gartner doesn't like to be told they missed something.
yeah,
Right?
yeah,
You know what I mean? They don't
yeah,
want to be
yeah,
told that, hey, there's another acronym you should have,
yeah.
because they're all the professors.
So I mean, I think like to your original question on how do you navigate this, it I take a very like innovate and adapt or die mentality, because if you start a if you're signing up to do a startup, you're raising venture dollars. You you know your seed round's not predicated on like this established thing that you're just selling over and over and over again. Like they're betting on founders to be able to navigate a market that's going to change and it's going to evolve. Like this was pre AI, Cambrian explosion. I mean, so many
Yep.
things have changed in that 4 years.
Boy, no kidding.
So our job, I mean, like as founders and as the steward of VC money and as startup employees, and it is to watch the signals and solve customer pain. And if you're building cool stuff for the sake of building it, that's not solving those problems, that's that's gonna peter out eventually. You have to
Totally.
solve problems. So we've
Totally.
kind of just like these days, I mean, yes, we have a really strong offering in our runtime behavioral detection. We have some patented tech there that works really, really well. It's AI native, meaning like we don't rely on signatures, and that folds into this broader platform that helps security teams expand their their reach. And I think everyone wants to hire more,
Yeah.
but we can't. So we leverage kind of this agentic workflow
Yeah.
sort of ecosystem, and then you solve problems as they appear with a platform that's easy to use, and that's in the cloud. What category is that? I mean,
Yeah.
it's a little hard to pinpoint. We still have roots in, yeah, we kind of skip the CNAP part. I mean, we're calling that portion, the runtime portion, CADR, right, which is also emerging, cloud application detection and response.
Mm.
But it's really, our emphasis is on the workload, on noise reduction, and on solving really hard problems at scale using AI as kind of that sidekick along with
Mm-hmm.
you.
Mm-hmm. And on the, I think, first of all, I don't think there's a cybersecurity vendor on the planet that's going to be able to survive if they're not heavy into AI.
Yeah,
Machine learning, certainly, um, you know, because it's just simply too powerful, too capable. And I
correct.
think, I suspect yours is closed and just RADs. It's not something that's open. I mean, how's it work? How does your system work? I mean, that I think will be varied all over the place, whether it's a wrapper on top of something like Claude or ChatGPT or what, there's a lot of real interesting implementations.
Yeah, and I think for us, it was is like a second evolution turned into a revolution. So our first kind of GA offering using LLMs specifically was for runtime threat detection, and this is pretty calculated because we we wanted to be in that segment of the market. Posture alone is not enough.
Yep.
Everything's getting consolidated, as you know. So we basically rewrote what we believe to be the way of the future of doing runtime detection, right? And that relies on very robust data processing, normalization, and building these behavioral fingerprints that then represent a workload's good or bad state as it's running, not just at rest. And LLMs at the time, like a year and a half ago, it was expensive. Not, I mean, like it's not the ecosystem it is today. But
Right.
we were seeing even some advice from our investors is just like use the best model. It will get cheaper, right? And like it will get cheaper fast.
Boy,
So
yeah, no kidding.
yeah, so we made an LLM native detection pipeline, and we learned a lot of how to not just like wrap LLMs, but build a high throughput detection engine that
Yeah.
learns and adapts over time. And that led us to the next step, which was like, okay, well, now we want more complex AI workflows, and we want to pull in data from you want your cloud or other tools, and
Yep.
we want other personas and use cases to emerge, because why shouldn't a GRC analyst or a compliance person be able to go to RAD and ask questions about, do a gap assessment, right? Those are things that traditionally were took a long time. You had to
Hmm.
go ask all these team members and you would build these reports. And if we have the
Depending on the
data,
organization, you may not even have the capacity to
yeah,
or ability to build it, and you'd literally have to. I mean, you're then
but
going to the hardware store and going. Yeah,
yeah,
I
you're
mean,
hiring
figuratively,
people
right?
and
Getting the pieces to put it together. So yeah, uh, that seems like this is what to me I get so excited, and I'm an old guy, you know, but the way that all of this technology is coming together, it's really offering some amazing capabilities like we've never seen before. And I think even I would go so far as to say in ways we haven't been able to necessarily look at solving different problems or analyzing different situations because of our human limitations, you know?
Yeah, I mean it's it in time, right? I think everyone's so busy and we have these grand ideas on how to build a security program and a detection pipeline and um but these days we don't have 1 or 2 years to do it, right? Like timelines are
Right.
so condensed, everybody's working month by month. So
Yeah.
AI in general has just unlocked a lot of productivity. And I look at it now
On
as
both
like,
sides of the fence too, right, brother? I
yeah,
mean, that means, the whole notion of it taking 2 or 3 months for the a high level CVE getting exploited, those days are long gone,
oh
man.
yeah, it's
It's
instant.
hours,
Yeah, and so I think if you're not, uh, I phrased it as interviewing some candidate couple like last week, and it's like there's some people that have like quote unquote seen the light, like you've used this stuff, and you're like, I just like I can't imagine going back. There is no going back to
Mm-mm.
a previous sort of world where everything I do is manual. Now I can like think about hard things and work on hard things and kind of
Yeah,
automate a lot of the tedious tasks. And I think security is it's a lot of tedium. Like it has been forever. Like it's just
totally.
manual log stuff and
That's why you
reports
get
and
so many people that get burned out, and the fatigue is so high. Especially, the dichotomy is that the burnout is so high at that entry level, right? It's almost like you gotta. It's Shawshank Redemption, and that
will you
last,
survive? Yeah.
yeah. In order to get out, and really survive, you gotta climb through a bunch of shit.
Yeah.
If you could, it's just, it is that way. And I often will hear from people that are looking for a career change, or are just out of grad school or graduated from university, and they're looking and asking about getting in. And I always find it quite interesting that on one side you hear 3+ million shortfall in the number of qualified cyber professionals, but nobody can get a job.
Yeah.
And the reason they can't get a job is nobody, that entry level now, that bar is rising rapidly because I have an assistant that I can sick on that stuff, right? So it's really presenting an interesting conundrum for employers, companies seeking entry level, but at what level is entry now?
Yeah, it's a lot different than it used to be, that's for sure. I mean,
I mean, albeit it's much more faceted, wouldn't you agree? I mean, there's
yeah,
so many different segments within cybersecurity sphere, but albeit the power that we're talking about, I mean, I use it every day. I'm sure you do too.
yeah, yeah.
And I find it remarkable. There are people that don't. I wonder how many people use it really well, meaning how many people really understand prompting.
Yeah.
Really, I've been harping on this for a while. I just feel like it is one of those most critical skills. Every company should be investing a little bit in their people to make, because the return would just be so exponential.
Yeah. I, totally agree. I think
Do you
our
see it happening? Do you see,
yeah, I
I
mean, our
mean,
own hiring practices have changed quite a bit over the past 2 years. Where, I mean, it, you can run a successful startup to very impressive numbers in ARR with very few head, like not just engineers, just like people.
yeah,
And I think like that's rippled through the VC world. It's we're now hiring. Yes, there's competency. Like you need skilled software engineers, no doubt, and we will continue to. That's a hardcore requirement. But like now, it's like, are you AI fluent, right, in your software
Hmm.
development and in how you build software. Or if you're hiring a sales rep or an AE, are you using every tool available right now to, I'm not hiring one person, I'm hiring you and your team of like AI experts.
Right.
And if you're not using that stuff effectively,
Yeah.
it's like not knowing how to use like Microsoft Word in like the 2000s. Like you have to.
That's a great analogy. I think you're spot on. And I always tell people what's different. If we went back a few years ago and you said, "Hey, Grant, uh, write some Python code to analyze a syslog file for failed authentications," I would literally go, "Is that a snake?" I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
right? I mean, I would not even know the first character to enter on the keyboard, let alone what tool I should run in order to write that.
Yeah.
So the chasm between the professor and the Gilligan, it was truly the Grand Canyon. It was just
No.
immense, right? But today, and I demonstrated this for an audience the other day, you know, uh, using Claude. Hey, write a Lambda function to stand up a complete data center with full redundancy, microsegmentation, zero trust principles, and least privilege architecture with maximum security controls. Enter. And
Yeah.
off it went. And boy, it was going. And so, what I tell people is here's the difference: the Grand Canyon has become a veil. But there's still one thing, Jimmy, that's significant between you and me. I don't know if it works or not.
I was gonna say it's the old 80/20 rule in action, right? You now have this natural language, copilot that can write that data center, the microsegmentation. But who's going to carry it to the finish line, I think, is
Exactly.
and it's not, that's where the skills of being a staff and principal and senior engineer like come into play. It's not like, I think writing the boilerplate code, a lot of that stuff, like it's just that's gone by the wayside with AI. But it's how do you turn it into like a living, breathing system that has, you know, lessons baked in over the years of like
Mm-hmm.
where things can go wrong. And I don't think AI, while amazing, is able to carry it to enterprise level promised land
Yeah,
quite yet.
it can't get it across the finish line.
Yeah.
And this
So
is why and I think it put another way, you're not going to get replaced full stop by AI today. But if you and I were doing the same job and you were exercising the hell out of AI and I was kind of a resistor, I'm definitely out the door,
for sure.
right?
Yeah.
I mean,
I mean,
that's a fact. You're going to get that job, not me. And I think that's I, I do acknowledge there are some roles that are being full stop replaced, right? But I don't think that any one individual could be replaced full stop unless they're doing some really, really just, I guess, robot kind of stuff. You know what I mean?
yeah, which, those jobs were on thin ice before AI anyways, probably.
Right.
So
Yeah.
yeah, it's
Right.
like, um it I think these days how I frame it is like, instead of defaulting when you have a problem or some area you're trying to get into, or some, you know you're trying to get socked to, whatever the big hairy task is, like instead of defaulting to saying I need headcount when I think of those things, I think, it's like, what can I automate and who can be the orchestrator of the AI elements that can make this happen faster. And if it's like maybe I hire one person instead of five, right?
Right.
And like I think we're in that camp right now,
Mm-hmm.
more so than like I'm not going to hire anybody like ever. I'm just going to do it all myself, right? You still have to
Right.
build a business, and
Yep. Yeah.
yeah,
I would struggle with that because I would feel like I would still, I mean, I've always been at my best standing, kind of in a gunny sack with someone that's very technical, maybe like yourself, right? That's been for me a much stronger than me to be completely independent and relying on my assistants to be the technical component because of the mere fact that I can't inspect what I expect to know, am I smoking dope or is this right? I mean, is this really what I'm getting back? You know what I mean? There's a side of it. Um, and I think that this permeates through just about all of the chatbot LLM use. And that is it all true? I mean, and we know it's a guess and it's an accurate and very good guess, but albeit, and so that's what always leaks into my mind is when I start to get into exercising and interaction with Claude, and then I have to kind of pause and go back and go, okay, now is this all really right? Is this,
yeah,
you know, which is an interesting thing that I'm not sure all people do. I mean, certainly the attorney in the East Coast that had ChatGPT write his brief and he submitted it with citations that didn't exist. Did you hear
for
about that?
sure.
What
Yeah,
an idiot,
yeah,
right?
yeah. I mean, it's it's like there's accuracy, there's hallucinations, there, but weirdly, the same characteristics exist in humans that you hire, right? Like, we don't know.
If they're
They're not.
telling the truth or not.
I mean, it may
It's
not be
true.
a blatant lie, but at least it's like, and
Sure.
they're not called hallucinations normally, but like, people make mistakes, and um, you always have to check the work of others anyways, and
Yep. Yep.
so it's different. They're different kinds of mistakes. Sometimes they're like so egregious, it's like, what, like, why did you write it like that?
Right.
But it's again, if it can get you 80% of the way, and then you have an expert do the last 20, that just freed them up
You
immensely to
bet.
do, to get more done.
And it's
So
getting better, right? I mean,
it's
we
getting a lot
know
better.
we know it's getting better. It's getting more accurate. All you have to do is just look at the challenge, of creating fingers and hands just a few years ago, graphically versus now. You can't discern, and it's crazy. So talk to me, Jimmy, more about RAD security, and so who's going to use it? How do they use it? It's cloud native, right? Am
Hmm.
I correct?
Yep, yep.
Is it also SaaS that you're serving up that I'm
It is.
subscribing
Yep,
to? And I
yep.
imagine multi-cloud supported, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about just kind of, who's your user. I mean, do you have multiple personas that end up using it? How's that all go?
Yeah. So we serve everything up like you would expect, SaaS based. We do have the capability to deploy RAD kind of more of like cloud prem in somebody else's environment,
Mm,
but our kind of core value proposition is around, collection, standardization, and surfacing data insights in your cloud. So that could come from Azure, GCP, AWS, running workloads, Kubernetes control plane. It's a lot of different kind of modules that
yep.
all lead into making these, we call them newly named RAD bots. So these are your digital workers, that you can almost look at them as like hiring a small team as you enable them. So like if you will take vulnerability management for as a use case, right? It's
Mhm.
still a pain. Like CVEs
Will
still
forever be.
exists, forever be,
Yeah.
and it's becoming harder because ephemeral infrastructure is like it's just hard to know where things are running. There's a lot of
Who
replicas.
touches who? What
Yeah,
touches what? Yeah.
doesn't matter. Is it exposed? Like
Yeah.
there's all this like you know there's all this prioritization in the vuln management space. So you would deploy our kind of marketplace ready vuln management RAD bot that is got everything it needs to surface exactly what you want and then get you that data where whenever wherever you want it, and pulls in all of that context, whether it's like bringing in your internal policy set with our SBOM CVE scanner, or if you want to augment it with Nessus data, it's going to go through this agentic flow to help do the work of what would traditionally be like security analysts, right? Like that's
Mm-hmm.
what security analysts do. There's a CSV over here. We're going to combine it. We're going to
Yeah.
maybe write some code to automate it, but we deploy these workers
You're gonna first
to
test it, make sure you're not gonna blow the whole thing up by patching it or fixing it, right? So there's that
yeah
whole process ahead of and then post after it's done, right? I mean, initially, a lot of times large organizations control that blast radius on the rollout to make sure that it is gonna. I mean, it's not just a hey, there's a patch for that CVE that came out
yeah go
and
fix it, roll it out. Yeah.
go double click.
Mm-hmm.
So
So
so if I understand right, your solution essentially can kind of serve in that role for me to, is it like on the hunt and finding where
yeah.
I potentially have products that have a corresponding exposed CVE and then say, hey buddy, I can fix that for you, or how does that work?
So we have native connectors
Because that's
that
pretty cool. Yeah, I'm
yeah
gonna just tell you straight up,
yeah it I mean
and that's where
it's
we need to
amazing.
go, brother. I think that that's amazing.
Yes, yeah, me too. I think it's we have native connectors, right, to do these things, but we also have integrations with other tools. So a big thing is like, I have my name your CSPM scan tool, and I need to, correlate that with some other tools output that they don't talk to one another, right? And
Yep.
like you can build a RAD bot or one of our workers to constantly be doing that. You could also have, like a runtime similar to the vuln management problem. You have a similar signal overload problem with like threat detection. Like your runtime tool, it could be too noisy, right? Like false
Right.
positives, there's
Yep.
things going on. So you could have, we have a available rad, rad worker that's going to go and see when it sees an alert like that, it's going to go dig into your AWS account, look at the logs over here, do some correlation, go out to the internet and see if that attack is happening, actively. Is there news about it? Like whatever the steps may be, but
Some of
it's
the
all
triage to assess on the backside of the flag going up, right?
yeah,
they're saying, "Whoa,
exactly.
whoa, here's a threat," and we all know in today's world, with few exceptions, you still got to dig in to find out, okay, what really is going on, right?
Yeah, I mean raw alerts are not great. Like
Yeah,
from any tool really. I mean
yeah,
you always have somebody or something doing that. So we use these agentic workflows to basically automate as much as we can. If I'm getting woken up in the middle of the night, I want it all. Like I want, where am I at in the cloud, what are the logs, like give me the report like a human would have, um you know from a managed security provider or something
right,
like that.
right, right. That's really cool.
Yeah, so it's been I mean it's been an evolution to get there, obviously, like but our thesis was just really you you have to have a strong data foundation to use AI effectively. You can't just in prompting and like guardrails. There's a lot of we now hire AI infra and engineers because there's guardrails and these different things that you didn't have in like a traditional cloud
Hmm.
infrastructure, to make this stuff accurate and auditable and make sure like we're dealing with security teams.
Yeah.
It's not like you're just writing emails, chat
Right.
gpt stuff. It's important to not miss things, and it's important
Right.
to catch what you can. So we're investing a lot there.
How much are you shifting left? Whole SDLC, getting into that pipeline. Are you also functioning in that world?
We are we radbot, which is our kind of general purpose natural language interface to ask questions and prompt your data, is built on top of MCP.
Hmm.
So we have a published MCP server that embeds nicely into you know uh, Cursor or Claude Desktop, or name your vibe coding
Yeah.
IDE of choice.
Yeah.
So we look at shift left as like, okay,
Yeah.
if,
It's
if code is AI generated, we want to make sure that it's done correctly. So you can just extend the same thing we have going on in the product
hmm
into those environments, which
yeah.
is pretty
I, uh,
cool.
I was starting to interrupt you, Jimmy, because I was thinking to myself, how we've been talking about shift left, getting into, SDLC pipeline, moving in, right? That's been a conversation now for a
Forever.
number of years. And vibe coding really is like a game changer that's entered the equation, right? Because uh, it just seems like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but in this day and age, with the help of these assistants, and vibe coding should be much more effective at ensuring we put those security controls in early.
Yeah.
Am I wrong? I mean, I'm not a vibe coder. I've never vibe coded. I'm not a coder, but it would seem that part of it could be maximum security implementation or some language in the prompt that tells it you want to make sure you have the most security and two-factor authentication and whatever, whatever. Is that not how it goes?
Yeah, it's kind of like that meme with the train running into the car. it's just it's like we tried to invest into all of these like complicated CI checks, and shift left in theory is a good thing, but
I'm getting a better clarity on the
yeah. And then like,
locomotive
yeah, the
rear-ending
locomotive,
the
you've probably
automobile.
seen it before, where it's like,
Yeah,
then like
it's
vibe
like out of
coding
my
comes
way.
and just like smashes our
Yeah,
like our shift left dreams we had,
yeah, yeah, exactly.
because at the end of the day, like the reason you would vibe code or use these tools is because you're getting outsized efficiency gains from a business perspective. So it's like security doesn't win over revenue typically. It's like,
Right.
okay, well, our engineers are moving 20 times faster, like security figured out, because we're not doing these CI lint things, and like it's just a bunch of
Right.
blocks. So well, what are we left with? Basically, we have to have AI companionship inside of the IDE that tells your main model to like do the right thing,
Yeah.
which is crazy because what are we doing as security engineers at that point? But yeah, you have to give it guardrails, or it's not trained on secure code anyways.
Right.
So
Right.
it's trained on whatever code is out there, which is mostly trash. And so
Yep.
you're not gonna get perfect secure code.
Inspect what you expect.
Yep.
Right.
So I think that model has to get better. I don't think it's figured out, but the traditional kind of block at every step of the pipeline
Yeah.
thing is that doesn't feel
That's too
natural.
inhibitive. Yeah. Especially, I
Yeah.
mean, vibe code is all about like, it's like getting greased up naked going down the pipe, man. You're faster than you've ever, I mean, really, right? I mean, it's just like, go.
Yeah.
In fact, I'll tell you a funny story. Um, this is a shout out to Venkat. So he was a co-founder of a company called Stack Identity that had an exit. They just got bought by Jump Cloud. This was, a few months ago, and I was at Angel with them. But Venkat, this guy he was on the first team that created SAML 1.0. Okay,
Yeah.
so he was at IBM for 16 years. He's long in the tooth developer, technical guy, right? And I met him when he was a VP at Blue Coat, when he came on after Thoma Bravo bought Blue Coat and kind of just, did the wholesale. Here's our team, and we're bringing in their executives. And I remember meeting him at an airport, and I've stayed in touch. We've been friends ever since. And after the exit of his company, and I was trying to reach out to him about, I don't know, maybe 2-3 months ago. It's like, hey, and we usually are WhatsApp. It's like, I'm WhatsApping him and I'm getting nothing. 3 days, nothing. And it's like, I'm a little like, I mean, we're not spring chickens, it's like, Venkat, are you there? Finally, he comes up for air. And his response was, sorry, I've been vibe coding. And
It's
then he
been in a
just,
whole vibe coding. Yeah.
and then he went dark again. And I just got a note from him last night that said, you know, I finished. I'm up for air now. We should get together and talk. But it's so funny because he's my age, uh, and he's just like in like full on and is just crazy about it. And he's really enthused about trying to reach the, let's say, 40 to 50-year-old, 40 to 60-year-old that still has some runway ahead of them, um, but is scared that they're going to lose their job to this new stuff.
Yeah.
And, so he's really keen on putting together some programs to help educate and inform and upskill all those people. So I'm going to be talking to him later because I think that's really cool too. I think there's a huge. I just was reading, and I suspect you've seen some of it, where there's a lot of POC failures in the world of AI because the expectations are here, and I've heard there's a lot less occurring with a lot more focus on business outcomes that are to be achieved and so on, trying not, essentially not to boil the ocean. Where do you stand on that one?
Yeah. I mean, I think we're even seeing it in the billing model, right? Like just
Oh,
charging for this is also new because you have one end of the spectrum, which is like oh, I forget the company. I don't know. It's blanking, but they do outcome based billing. So like if when the agent returns something useful and correct and valuable, they charge you money, which is wild in SaaS. It's like completely unpredictable. But
I know what you're talking about. I just was talking to a guy, and he sent me an article. I was reading it, and so I'm right there with you. It's fascinating. I'm not sure how it'll be
yeah,
interesting how that plays out, but there's certainly, um, I kind of, my mind's eye sees my son at the audio engineering table for the band that he's managing, right? Because that's what he does, and all those little dials, and a lot of those dials are getting turned and twisted where before we've never done that, right? I mean, it was a pretty big leap when we went from what do you pay one time and then give me 15% annual for the rest of your life for me to milk you,
Yeah.
unless it's for premium milking, and then it's 20 or 25%, right? Um, and now it's all about ARR.
Yep.
I mean, there's not a VC on the planet that wants to hear anything other than what's your ARR, what's your, right? They don't care about anything else.
No, no.
And
Yeah,
now this new pricing experiments, it's
they're definitely experiments. Yeah. It's
yeah. Do you remember hearing about? Do you remember Ross Perot?
yeah.
Okay, so he had a company, Perot Systems. Okay, and I believe this was the '70s, back in the minis and mainframe days, right? He was selling to the government, and his number one competitor was those big three letters, right?
Mm-hmm.
IBM.
Yeah.
And he offered in this contract for, I think it was like state of Texas or something. I can't remember the details. Zero cost. All new everything, zero cost. What they had to pay is half of the savings.
Mm.
So what he had done is he had analyzed to precision what it cost to process, a piece of paper.
Yeah.
And he was going to spend all the money and put all the infrastructure in and say, hey, now you pay me. It was brilliant. Uh,
Yeah.
IBM objected because it, was against the rules of the bid or whatever, some bullshit, and it never transpired. But I thought, that was very, very innovative.
I mean, pricing is a differentiator, right? Like, people like simplicity, and what better way to have your product speak for itself than having people pay when it works or saves you time or saves you money. Like, there's no better way. It's
It's
just, it's scarier, it's harder to do,
yeah,
but
yeah.
yeah. So with AI, it's a whole new field. Like, we have tokens, and all the
There's
features
compute
matter
that's
less.
involved.
Yeah.
There's a cost of
Yeah.
goods, right? That you
Yeah.
have to factor that, where before you didn't really have to. I mean, storage, we don't really think of anything nowadays, right? You get storage
Yeah.
is just like so inexpensive, but now all of a sudden I've got to pay for, the
Yeah.
lawnmower,
Yeah.
the chipper.
GPU time. Yeah. It's a thing.
Exactly.
But yeah, I'm excited to be here now building a company in it. I think it's I'm you could be afraid. I think a lot of people are, but like, um we're gonna just evolve. I don't know. The things we're gonna do is like a species coming up, as just, it's gonna be crazy. I
Oh,
mean,
I
yeah,
agree. And
beyond the internet explosion, I
I,
think it's bigger.
listen, I've said this, and I already mentioned, before I got into this business in 1983, and so I've seen some significant transformations, right?
Yeah.
Some big, big waves, just the personal computer and client server from the mainframe and Wi-Fi, and the list goes on and on. And I've said this before, and I stick to it. By orders of magnitude greater this impact will be than anything we've ever seen, by orders of magnitude. I just think it's it's just going to be unbelievable. And that's why, I feel so strongly that people should be educated and at least informed and understand transformer even at a high level, so they do kind of get that it's not. Even the experts don't know exactly why the answers come
Yeah.
out the way they do. That's a little bit scary, but we need to understand that to then really appreciate the importance of not giving away the keys and trusting everything is
Yeah.
exactly, and but it's also interesting, right? How you're old enough to remember in the early days of Google, that when you were installing those Google appliances, there was all kinds of talk about making sure, Jimmy, we got to learn how to search.
Yeah.
We got to, I mean, it was like this, got to learn how to use the right terms. And, it's
Oh,
really
for sure.
important.
Yeah. I mean, you could take courses on how to like search effectively.
Think of prompting now.
Yeah.
I mean, and to me, it's exponentially more critical to really be good at prompting today because
Yeah.
of the what's on the other side. I mean, if you type in the exact same search term, you're going to get the same results.
Yeah.
That's where it changes, right? And so I always tell people it's like playing badminton. Hit the shuttlecock and it goes over, thinks a little bit, and then it comes flying back. And you
Yeah.
go, no, that's not what I want. I want, and you have this game, this interaction, and it's fascinating. And I suspect so. How, with regards to your RAD bot,
Hmm.
a lot of tools, I think initially kind of like security always follows the path of visibility first, and then I can start to take action. But, I mean, we all know we got to see it first. And so in
Sure.
this, instance, um, the path is first being able to answer kind of all of the knowledge base questions and not necessarily offer advice or suggestions. So how much can I say to the RADbot, have I got the very best implementation for security in my Kubernetes cluster, or you know what I mean? Can I
Oh,
can I
yeah.
can I proactively ask it to go and assess and come back and tell me what to do?
Yeah. We had a customer yesterday. They're they're rolling out a service mesh, and they were using Radbot to basically build the plan like fully because it knows. I mean, yeah, there's security pieces, but it knows everything that's running. It knows what should be covered first. It can give you a project plan even specific to your environment. So it's
Hmm.
like, um, I think LLMs become so much more useful when they have like access to your huge data treasure trove, right? And versus generically asking ChatGPT, how do I roll out a service mesh? Well, it's going to give
Right.
you a plan, but it's the same plan that it would
Yep.
give anyone, but
Yep.
now it's tailored to you. So you can like I use it to write blog posts that are specific to its own use cases.
Hmm.
It's good at that because it knows its own strengths given the tools it has via MCP, but it also knows who who you are based off of your cloud footprint and your data
Hmm.
footprint.
Hmm.
So yeah,
Hmm.
you can do proactive stuff. You can have it create tickets, send messages in Slack with the details. Like it is like a teammate. What it doesn't do yet is it won't reach in and change like your cloud infrastructure. But we can create pull requests with the proposed fix, which is
Right.
pretty cool too.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's uh,
And
it's it's all
what
that.
about what about one of the things that I know our company is like really hot on, our new CEO has been throwing the term around a lot of open garden, and this whole idea of your use case earlier talked about a conundrum many face, and that's they've got one part of their infrastructure or their stack that identifies a vulnerability or a problem, but isn't able to fully communicate that, or remediate that problem across their entire ecosystem, right? And that's, I know why Checkpoint just bought this new company, Verity, right?
Hmm.
With that whole notion of we're going to care less about whether or not you've got our stuff or somebody else's, and more about providing solutions that can tighten the net and close the holes and do it in a more open fashion, i.e., published APIs, more exposure on the side of integrating various data points. Where do you guys sit there?
Yeah, I think it's going to be more important to be open to other tools, commercial, open source, whatever, just due to the fact that, like, you know, especially as a startup, you can't, like, people aren't going to rip out everything they have the moment you'd like them to, and that's just not realistic.
Yeah,
But playing nice with tools that you have in your stack that you might have for the next 2, 3, 5 years,
yeah.
and making them more useful, there's always a place for that. So I think getting that visibility across the stack with different tools is something we do and we're getting better at, versus like you compete with XYZ product and you have to remove that product to use us. I don't think
Yeah, I agree there.
that's not a easy path for a startup. Yeah, you can do it when you're fighting the big fight with
Yeah,
the giant companies, but not as
yeah.
much
Well, and I
when
would
you're
also
innovating.
suggest, Jimmy, that you might have been able to get away with that 20 years ago,
Yeah,
right? Where there were
sure.
just so many fewer uh, participants in the gardens. I mean, there was clear rows, clear lines. You knew what plants and what were weeds. You know, it's not that way anymore. It's it's pretty complicated. I believe the tools like yours, if I understand what you've been telling me, are absolutely paramount going forward, especially um, when you consider the complexity and the hyper interconnectedness that we have today has largely outstripped the technical capabilities of most.
Yeah,
Unless you've got an enormous staff and you can afford to have all those people doing now what sounds like Radbot can really address for me. And I think that's a huge win because it's never been more complex. And when you start to really step back and consider, if you look at the rate of change that we've seen in the last 10 years and look out 5 years in terms of just the what I call the main meat and potatoes, bandwidth, connectivity, compute, and storage. I mean, it's off the hook.
yeah,
And so to me, that only means every new device is somehow going to have a connection. We're going to have, low power protocols and OT protocol. I mean, it's just crazy. And that complexity is going to be the death knell of most because they're not going to be able to secure that complete environment with any kind of real understanding. With the help of experts like Radbot, I think there's a chance if I understand what
yeah.
you talked about. You know what I
No,
mean?
that's what we're aiming for. You said it better than I did. It's complexity breeds insecurity, and in our environments, we're kind of, you're hired as a security engineer, you're plopped into them. No one knows the ins and outs of everything going on. Like, it's
Oh,
not even possible. And most people have been there 2 years, and there's some old documentation you can read. It's like,
if any.
you, yeah,
I mean,
if
come
any,
on, man. You
and
know
yeah,
what
like,
I mean, if
yeah,
any. And here's the biggest, here's who, arguably the consumer in the purest definition is the most elusive and difficult market because
yeah,
it's fickle as anything. It'll, can change. If you don't
like the
believe
wind.
me,
Yeah,
call BlackBerry and
yeah,
ask them about 2007.
yeah,
Right? I mean, it's that fickle. But for the SME, for the business like my wife, okay, 3 stores, grow into 5. maybe as many as
Hmm.
10 in the next 5 years, been on an aggressive clip, pretty impressive revenue growth. She's ripe to get nailed. you know, she's ripe to get nailed as she grows. Why? Because she doesn't have anybody that knows any of this stuff. And I can't do it all. I mean, I get the phone calls enough, but it seems to me, though, that market of that emerging, growing business that has 100, 200, 500 employees has something the bad guys want, but really has not been able to make it up the hill of investment to protect with the complexity that they're faced with. I think, it sounds like that's a sweet spot where you guys could really be, hitting the nail on the head. I have a theory, Jimmy, there's three kinds of products: vitamin, aspirin, and crack. Don't waste your time on a vitamin
Yeah.
because, nobody, oh, yeah, I feel better, I think. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Aspirin, now you're getting somewhere, right? You're definitely solving pain. But what we really want is crack, man. I don't feel any pain, and man, I feel good. I want more,
I can't
right?
get off it. Yeah.
Exactly. So, but I have to tell you, I looked at your website and I love the polar bear and,
Oh yeah.
great imagery. And in this world of AI, I think that matters from a
Yeah.
branding, it
For
really
sure.
does.
Yeah.
And I'm intrigued now to kind of dig in more on your stuff and watch what you guys are doing. And I know we went long on this, and I apologize. We've been talking so much, but I find it fascinating, and it's exciting, because we're in a time of massive transformation, and we're still, I mean, we're cavemen in this
Yeah.
space
Yeah.
relative to where it's going, and I love it. I said for years, Jimmy, the most exciting aspect of this industry is it doesn't matter when you get into it, you're getting in at the beginning of something.
That's true. That's a good way to frame it.
And it's
Yeah.
been that way for 42 years for me, So
That's really a good way to frame it. And I think it's on you if you get bored, right? It's like there's no reason to be bored because just look around.
amen.
Yeah.
It's so true. It's so true. Well, hey, ladies and gentlemen, I've had the wonderful pleasure of spending more than an hour with co-founder and CTO of RAD Security, Jimmy Mesta. Jimmy, it's really been awesome, and I really appreciate all your time and the conversation. So thank you very, very much for being here.
It's been a lot of fun. Thank you, Grant. Yeah.
You,
Hope to do it again next time.
yeah, for sure. Well, we'll keep tabs on him. What's the URL?
Radsecurity.ai, of course,
Okay,
is our URL. We have a great blog. You can find me and the company on LinkedIn. We're pretty active. We'll be at Black Hat and we're at all the shows and doing really cool stuff. So
cool.
yeah.
I might come find you at Black Hat because I think I'm
Yeah,
going to be
we got
there.
a booth there.
So
So yeah, swing
excellent,
by.
excellent. Ladies and gentlemen, I love, I feel like I'm the luckiest guy on the planet because I get to talk to such smart people that are doing really cool stuff, just really amazing stuff. And I just feel fortunate. So, Jimmy, thank you to you. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you to you. And please tell your friends if you liked it, share it, like it online, subscribe, and we'll look forward to having you back on the next episode of Talking Cloud. Thanks so very much.
Thank you, Grant. Bye.
Bye bye.